Hey, it's me. I'm back. And yes, I did build this entire building. You know why? Because I'm over it. I just want to do a lot. And that's what I'm gonna do. Before moving on though, this place isn't entirely done. I still have to do my due diligence of slapping a bunch of leaves everywhere and actually doing an interior and adding a bunch of other details. So, decorating time? Since I've got the resources here already, I might as well grab these logs and make some interior walls. I may have chopped down an entire forest to get these logs. It was a lot. But now I'm never gonna run out of birch, so that's good. All right, now my number one problem with this place right now is there's no way up or down. And usually these buildings have elevators, so I do that. There we go. Elevator shaft. Of course, every elevator shaft needs an actual elevator, so let me try making that real quick. Now if I just replicate this thing right over here, we now have at least an imaginary way of getting up and down. Of course, it's a little stuck. But now I've got to figure out a real way of getting up and down. And this is a pillager outpost, and it's still intended to be a pillager outpost. It's not like they're going to stop spawning. Oh, it's actually kind of quiet right now. It hasn't been. I might as well stick with the theme and give them their home back. Now, I imagine this being an office space, so probably some cubicles around the floor with some computers, maybe a water cooler, and then just everything taken over by scaffolding and banners and janky staircases. I don't know. Pillagery stuff. Yeah. I think I've successfully made the inside of a building look good. Like I said, pillagery stuff everywhere. This is supposed to be a sleeping quarters area. Got the bunk beds on the scaffolding, and then barrels floating from chains for storage, I guess. And a little cooking area. I wanted to do more, but there's not much of a floor space here. So this works. And of course, the little office details. This computer design I stole from somewhere. It's like the first video that comes up when you look up Minecraft computer design, so if you want to find it, just do that. But it was too cool to pass up, so I did it. On the other side, we've got a little archery range. Just targets thrown everywhere, honestly. But it looks good enough, and it serves its purpose, right? Barrel here to store crossbows. And we can head up to the storage area, which is all the way up here. Simple piles of barrels and chests. Nothing fancy, but it sells the look, I think. And then over here, it makes sense for this building to be more of a lookout since it's very open. So I added this little balcony over here for them to look down at their friends. And a little campfire to stay warm, some lighting. Kept it very simple up here. But yeah, I think that's about it. Now I get to go back to familiar territory and polish up the outside. Many leaves later. I think this place is done. Look at it. It looks really cool. The vines haven't grown all the way, so it's going to be even more green in the future. There is a pillager in the ground somewhere below me. Where? Huh? Look, I don't know how you got down there, but stay down there. Okay, I'm really glad I finally tackled this thing. Like I said in the intro, I just wanted to do things. This is something I've had the idea for a while, and I just haven't done. It's like a one-off project on the side, you know, and having that included in something that isn't a short felt really weird for me. But nowadays I care less about having a total narrative through the whole video or one theme or one idea. I just, boom, it's there. And it looks really cool. I will say though, I really need to move on from this palette. I'm addicted. It's a problem. If we get a bird's eye view here, you can see it fills out the area a lot better than whatever was there before. We're finally able to connect this path, so there's a bit more logic going on here. Although, with this being a city, it's missing a very key element. Streets! Streets. I want to make streets. Let me lay those out. Okay, I'm pretty happy with this layout. This turn here might get refined a bit. Looks a little jank from the wrong angles, but it's curves in Minecraft, you know? You know, another cool feature about doing things that I think I mention all the time is that it opens up possibilities for future projects. There's a nice square right here to build whatever. Not sure what I'm going to put there yet. I'm also going to need to figure out how to continue this road. We need to connect the church and the factory, so likely something coming down here. Maybe this road extending through, and then a bridge across. But I don't know how that's going to play with this biome and this biome, so we'll see. Yeah, biome works. That's fine. Okay, now, I don't know if I have enough stone and andesite and cobble to fill this in all the way, but if I don't, then I'll get it. This is gonna take a while, isn't it? Okay, it only took me a few hours, but definitely a worthwhile few hours. The roads are coming together. There were some tough areas to work with, like this curve. I don't know if this is the proper way to do this, but if you just don't focus on it, it looks fine. One thing I wanted to show before moving on to the next step was actually some of the sightlines that are being developed right now. I didn't plan any of this out, but like if I stand over here where I was, the framing on our original raccoon guy there, very good. And also, noting the terraforming isn't done yet, but if you jump down here, this is a really cool sightline as well. You can imagine once this land bumps out and there's land filled in there, this whole area is going to look pretty cool. Speaking of which, that's also the next step. Rock time! Rock time over. At least for now. I don't know how I want to texture it. I need to do a little more than just stone though. Anyways, now is detail time. I'm not going to show me making every single detail, but I at least want to talk through the main set pieces and maybe some ideas for plots of land. Hello. I've got a whole inventory full of things. Let's start using them. First up, I've decided I want to add road lines. The only reason I was afraid of using road lines before was because sometimes the scaling could look a little bit weird, and it also divides the road in half, which makes adding cars a little awkward. But I think because we have this apocalyptic theme, I can get away with placing the cars not dead center on the road. And what that means for our sake is I can divide the road in half and not care as much about proportionality. Because, you know, I can just have the car going over the line a bit. No one's gonna care about that. The next main component is going to be traffic lights, which I'm going to build with a setup sort of like this. Had to copy a banner from somewhere, but those look pretty cool. I was messing around with buttons and trapdoors, and it's just the scaling of the two blocks is so much better. I'm sure there's more creative ways I could have made a traffic light, but I'm happy with this. I want to add a little accent with this stripe on the bottom, and then street signs with warped signs. They're going to be a little small. I don't have any street names conjured up in my brain yet, but they're there. There's going to be a ton of these everywhere, basically every intersection. This used to be a pretty busy city, so no four-way stop signs or things like that. Traffic lights everywhere. It being nighttime has reminded me that I should probably add some more lighting around here. So, street lights. They're all gonna look something like that. I think the height on that is good. It might be a tiny bit too tall. No, I like it. Now that all that's done, another key element that you might see in a city is a bus stop. I'll have a few of these scattered around, as you would see in real life. They look something like that. Maybe, ooh, I almost forgot the painting, which I'm gonna throw on here as like a little advertisement. And then just to the side of it, a little marker. It's supposed to be like one of those bus stop sign things. They're kind of hard to make in this game, but I think that symbolizes that. Oh, and more jungle signs along the back, of course. And there's other decorations I can add streetwise. All of these intersections will need some kind of electrical box to handle the electronics that power the lights. And maybe the streets need some manholes. I could use the top of basalt for that. I talked about crash cars earlier, but also just spreading the vegetation into the road a bit, having some tall grass in here. There's a lot of small things we can do to contribute to making this road look more in theme, But on top of that, covering some of the areas that we have around here, there's this blank strip of grass that I want to add a wall to. This factory, likely wanting to protect this property, would have some kind of fence line. That way strangers don't just walk over into it. And that includes a fence down here, maybe a different kind, with some storage out here. This is going to be a building in the future, so I'm not going to touch it. Up here, this strip is large enough to where I might be able to do some kind of park. It would make sense to have a strip of the city overlooking the water be reserved as a public space. And right under here, I left a hole in the cliff because I want to make a sewer entrance. This is going to be basically one-to-one inspired by the Stardew sewer entrance. And I have no idea how extensive the actual inside of the sewer will be. I just knew when I was building this cliff, I wanted to add some kind of a detail. And a sewer entrance would be really cool. Plus, it makes sense next to the factory. I can add a runoff of water seeping into the ocean. Maybe make it a little toxic. We'll see what I'm able to do. But those are the main things that I'm going to build today. On top of all that, I'm also brainstorming a building that I can build over this ravine that's broken. Imagine this crack forming after the building was built and it crumbled down. That way this whole plot isn't so empty. The hardest part about planning this whole city out, honestly, has been working around the stuff I've already done. Cities are very organized, planned structures, right? And all of these were not spaced out with that in mind. So it's been a bit of a struggle, but I think I've figured some things out. But yeah, I'm gonna add all those details. Maybe we can do some reveal shots, and then we can move on to something else. Deal? Deal. Once again, I've been proven. Detailing adds a lot. I was really lost with what I wanted to do with this area without all the roads here. I think I mentioned it previously, but I had this whole apocalyptic city idea in my head. None of the ideas are really connected though. I had this bee building and I had the fizz building, but it was really discontinuous. And the front of this building isn't lined up with this one. It's like, what do I do? How do I go about solving that problem? And I think I did it. I think the only extra detail I added that I didn't mention before the reveal was these guardrails. Just anvils and trapdoors running along the side. I think it works. It at least gets the idea across that it's supposed to be blocking cars from going off the edge, right? Maybe not entirely like real life guardrails, but the point gets across and that's all that matters. Oh yeah, and down here I just added a wall. The path continues due to hole in it and it connects over here. This is still as is. I'll have to find a way to tie in this magical theme elsewhere. I think the fact that it's already floating over a ravine that is split from the earth, it already stands out, right? It doesn't really matter if I have a different thematic element there right now. I added a pathway over here. I'm going to get into some of the extra detailing I'm going to do here. It's a part of some of my propositions I have for you guys. First one being what I should do with the sewer. This is all I have for now. It just goes to blank walls, but it would be neat to turn this into its own area entirely. I hate working underground because I really like exteriors and I don't like interiors, and underground is only interiors. But I believe back in episode 5 when I built that dragon, I had the idea for the dwarven city way over there, and the sewer would run underground along here. Maybe there's a way for me to connect the two and we can have a whole underground network going on under everything on the surface. Just an idea. Second thing I want ideas on: how do I texture this rock face? And I'm gonna explain the dilemma. I feel like I can't just choose any palette because we're transitioning between other regions. So over here on the front face where I had my original raccoon, it's just stone with the ores. And then over here, I'm getting into the more sandstony stuff, although I think this is going to be specifically on the shoreline, so I don't think that will influence these rocks. But basically, I want to do more shading in these rocks while not taking away from this over here, or having to redo all this. There's also my ravine over here, which has an entirely different set of shading from the nethery stuff down here up to the stone. So basically, my thought process is I need to find some very subtle palette to work with in the stone. That way I can emphasize shading while still maintaining the original stone look of the raccoon. That's my personal opinion, but I am very down for suggestions, so please give. The last thing is the other thing we're gonna do that I mentioned before the reveal. It was gonna be all the way behind me in the storage place, but I think it's gonna look better here. I'm gonna replace this tree behind me. Okay, I added a second one too. This is the third proposition. Now these trees I've built before. I had a hardcore world probably like a year ago by now that I built these in, and I think when I originally built these, they were inspired by a B-dubs tree. I like them too much, so I want to build them again. And I think they would go very well scattered around everywhere here. When I was mentioning earlier, filling this space in with some other stuff, it's trees. It's these trees. I really like it. I think it works. Need to add some more things to them, like candles to add a little roughness to it. I'm also thinking copper grates in this to add a little transparency. Don't ask why I have slowness. But yeah, personally, I think this will look very good here. I just need validation because it's going to be a lot of work to cover this whole place with custom trees, and it's going to be pretty dense. So I need confirmation before I commit to something like that. That's all for today, though. If you liked the video, then make sure to like and subscribe and do the things. Bye. 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 Bye.